All right, well, hopefully you did well on test 7. Students in here, for the most part, did well. Some little things here and there. Nobody perfect on this test, unfortunately, but overall a pretty good job. And we kind of ended talking about different types of functions. We talked about variation in functions, direct and inverse. We talked about function notation, what constitutes a function, the domains and ranges of various functions. We're going to continue this idea of functions with the next section of notes, which is combinations of functions. Combinations of functions. Combination of functions. 4 ways in which you can combine functions together. You could add 2 functions. So for instance, if I gave you a function of x, and let's just say it was 3x squared minus 4, and give you another function of x, which we'll call g of x to differentiate it from the f function, and we said it's, for instance, 2x plus 1. And I said, I want to add the functions together. I want to take f of x plus g of x. Well, that's a combination of functions, combining by adding. The way you'll see it notated is you'll see in parentheses f plus g of x. And I think this is fairly logical. This implies you should add the 2 functions of x together. That make sense? So, this is not earth-shattering. We're going to take the f of x, that's 3x squared minus 4, and we're going to add g of x, which is 2x plus 1. And there's not a whole lot of like terms here, but we can at least combine the negative 4 and positive 1, class. 3, negative 3. Nothing else combines, so this is f plus g of x. Seem pretty easy? You literally just add the functions together, and you're done. So far, so good? It's a Monday. Coming off a test. So far, nobody's brain equals blown. All right. What if I wanted to subtract 2 functions? Well, the way you'd see this notated would be f minus g of x. And this means subtract g of x from f of x. You probably would have guessed that. But we never really subtract, class. So I'm going to take my f of x, and I'm going to add the inverse of the g of x. So not 2x plus 1, class, make it negative 2x, negative 1. So now when I combine the only like terms I've got, I get a 3x squared, negative 2x, negative 5. And that's f minus g of x. Still so far so good? Still easy enough to combine 2 functions? All right, what if I want to take f of x and multiply it by g of x? The way you'll see this notated, fg of x, where the f and the g are up against each other, which implies multiplication. So here, instead of adding or adding the inverse, I'm going to multiply a 3x squared minus 4 and a 2x plus 1. Now, admittedly, this is a little bit more process-oriented, but you learned how to do this last year. You just didn't see it like this. You know how to do this from like the first month or 2 of the school year. I've got 2 binomials, because that's what each function is. It's a binomial. I'm supposed to multiply them together. How do I multiply binomials? FOIL. Now, in this case, it's not going to be first outer, inner last, because I don't have similar binomials, right? But I can still FOIL my first class. 6x cubed. My, let's go with the outer, 3x squared. Inner, negative 8x. And last, negative 4. And that's fg of x. Still easy? Not blowing anyone's brain. What if I wanted to take f of x and I wanted to divide it by g of x? Well, first of all, we don't really use this division symbol in algebra. What do we use instead of a division symbol, class? Generally a fraction bar, right, Kendall? Generally a fraction bar shows division. The raised dot remembers multiplication. So probably what you'd see here is f of x over g of x. But the way you'll see it notated, if they want you to divide the functions, is f over g of x. That means is divide the f function by the g function. And so I'm going to take the 3x squared minus 4, 3x squared minus 4, I divide it by the 2x plus 1. And it doesn't actually divide out evenly, so I'm done. If I could factor and cancel, I would. Does anything factor?
No.
Then does anything cancel?
No.
No, I'm done. It's that. And so we can add, subtract, multiply, and divide functions. 4 ways in which you combine functions. Everyone feel like, wow, this is pretty easy? Or anyone like, I am really confused right now? It looks maybe somewhat complicated, but it's pretty easy. We all good? Are we awake? Not awake. Not awake. Michael's not awake. Nap time. All right, look at page 190 now. Oh, one little thing. I guess technically, there is a little domain issue here, right? You can't plug in a -1/2 for x, right? But other than that, it's that. As long as x doesn't equal -1/2. All right, page 190. Look at the bottom of the page. They give you f of x as x squared plus 3x plus 2. They give you g of x as x plus 2. Notice at the bottom of page 190, it says, find the following. The sum, f plus g of x. F plus g means add them. So they added x squared plus 3x plus 2 plus x plus 2. And they got x squared plus 4x plus 4. Questions on that? Look at the top of the next page. Yes, that is a perfect square trinomial. How many were thinking that? Ooh, I could make a binomial squared. We don't need to. We're done. Difference, f minus g of x. Notice they took f of x, x plus 3x plus 2, and they subtracted x plus 2, or I would have written negative x, negative 2. When you have a negative x, negative 2, you end up getting down just to x squared plus 2x. And we're done. Questions on finding a difference. Product, fg of x. Now here you're going to have to double distribute. How did they do it? It looks like they triple distributed. They distributed the x squared, then they distributed the 3x, then they distributed the 2. I'd have done it backwards. I'd have distributed the x backwards, or from your perspective backwards, and the 2 backwards. Anyway, they ended up with an x cubed plus 5x squared plus 8x plus 4. That's the product. That's probably the most annoying one. They had to double distribute or triple distribute. Questions on this product. Quotient, f over g of x. Now this time, when they put the f function over the g function, they could factor and cancel. So they said x plus 1, where x cannot equal -2. Remember factor and cancel from back when we talked about fractions in section 1.7. Questions on all of that? How many's like, I got it already. Let me work some of these. How many have questions? Okay, I'm not going to let you take a nap. So it's either you have a question or you're ready for these. How many are ready for these if you don't get to choose nap as an option? All right, how many questions? All right, and we still have one sleepy. All right, page 192, do 1, 5, 9, 13. Page 192, 1, 5, 9, 13. Once you're finished, wake me up. Once you're finished, we'll go over them together. For the record, Genesis, I'm not texting. And it's not a worksheet. As you're working, if you need help, raise your hand and clear your throat loudly, or just yell, help, and I'll come by and help you. Don't actually yell help, that'll sound weird.
Sounds like Michael's finished. Abby's finished. Abby might have finished before Michael.
No, not at all.
Kendall finished? No.
That was Michael again. False alarm.
Poor Abby. I don't really like him better, I promise. It sounds like she's calling for help.
Yeah. Do you require assistance?
And they teach you in first aid class, are you okay? Are you okay? Keep coughing, keep coughing. Oh, you remember that? Keep coughing, keep coughing.
Are you joking? Cool.
About a minute and a half or so, and then we'll go over these together. Those who already finished, like Audrey, you said there was a smug look on your face. Okay, well, if you need another minute and a half, pause the video. Everybody here's done. Let's take a look. All smug looks. Number one, when you added f plus g of x, what did you get, Maddie? You had x squared plus x minus 2. How many have the same answer on number 1? All right, number 5. F minus g of x. So adding the inverse, what did you have? Genesis. Boo! All right, what did you get, Audrey?
X squared plus 15x minus 6.
Good. So you got an x squared positive 15x because you're adding now what is now a positive 7x to the 8x to get 15x. And then a negative 2 with the negative 4 gives negative 6. So x squared, positive 15x, negative 6. Number 9. This was the annoying one because we had to double distribute or triple distribute depending on the direction you multiplied. What did you get for fg of x? Genesis? Number 9? What did you do?
1, 6, and 3. 13, not 3. Not 3.
All right, well, what we wanted was 1, 5, 9, and 13.
What? She obviously needs a nap.
Evidently, but she'll have to wait till she gets home to get it. So number 9, what should we have gotten, Abby?
6x 6x cubed minus 53x squared minus 21x minus 2.
That is correct. 6x cubed, negative 53x squared, negative 21x, and negative 2. Number 13, f over g of x. And what did you get for your answer on that one, Michael?
X squared minus 2x minus 3 over x minus 3. X cannot equal 3.
But you simplified it down, right? Factor and cancel?
Nope.
You didn't. Kendall? What'd you get?
X plus 1.
X plus 1, where x still cannot equal 3. So should have factored x minus 3, x plus 1, and then canceled the x minus 3's away to get just x plus 1, where x still cannot equal 3. Questions on those? All right, let's go back into the other odds that you skipped, or in Genesis's case. Well, anyway, do 3, 7, 11, and 15. 3, 7, 11, and 15. You may want to put a little mark next to those in your textbook so you remember which ones you're doing. Did anyone, by the way, do we need to see any of those worked, 1, 5, 9, or 13? Was anyone perfect on 1, 5, 9, and 13? You went 4 for 4? Audrey, Michael, questions? Genesis just chose not to do any of them, but Michael and Audrey, we figured out what we did? Or should have did? Right.
Can we skip 11?
Good practice for you. Builds character. Digging weeds in the yard. Washing dishes again. All those things build character.
I still do all those.
So,
What's that?
why are y'all using your calculators?
GI30XA? It's Audrey. I see Michael got to the one everyone else was on.
Yeah, I just had to figure out what 15 times 11 was.
165. Duh.
Yeah. See, I'm in need of a nap.
No naps. No time for anybody to have naps. Nose to the grindstone, working hard.
It's like the health teacher stuffing his face full of Little Debbie saying, make sure you eat healthy now, kiddies.
The gym teacher sitting in the chair yelling at everyone to run.
Yeah, I don't sit in a chair. I stand there and yell at everyone else to run. When I went to college, we had one gym teacher. He was a very large man. Clearly did not practice what he preached. Yeah, a gelatinous fellow.
What? Hey guys, can you factor the first equation on number 15? He can't hear me, he's sick.
I got it. That would be like, must be nice. Michael's finished. We'll see if this time you need another minute and a half.
How much time do I got for a nap?
Depends on when we finish. Back row, good job. You two are front and back.
Wait, so what one did y'all use your calculators on? I don't have my pencil.
Some people's siblings, they tell you.
We don't have a quiz today, right?
You'll find out. Well, it's easy though, right? So you do really well on a quiz anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but how much points is it for not having the correct writing utensils?
So just -3. So you get everything perfect, you still have a 97, that's really great. Alright, let's go and take a look at 3, 7, 11, and 15. Number 3. Assuming we did all the right ones. Genesis, what did you get for number 3? F plus g of x.
-3.
Great job. Negative 5x squared, positive 9x, negative 9. Then at number 7, when we found f minus g of x, what did we get? Genesis.
4, number 7. 4x cubed minus 16x squared plus 6x minus 10.
Uh-oh. I think we forgot to add the inverse here. So you'll take your first function, the f, right? 4x cubed, negative 9x squared, positive 12. We're going to add the inverse. So this is going to become a positive 7x squared. Becomes a negative 6x and a negative 2. So what we should have had x squared.
X squared negative 6x. 10 plus 1.
There we go. That's what we should have had for number 7. Number 11. Triple distribution, no matter which way you do it, it's just annoying. Speaking of annoying, Michael, what'd you get?
Negative 12x to the 4th, positive 30x cubed, negative 105x squared, positive 96x, negative 165.
It'd be really annoying if you had the wrong answer, but he did it, so it's not annoying. Fg of x is, and as he said, negative 12x to the 4th, positive 30x cubed, negative 105x squared, positive 96x, negative 165. How many also perfect? Every sign, number, and exponent. Good. Questions on 11. And number 15, you can actually backwards FOIL that first one, or you could do synthetic division, right? You could put negative 13 in the half box and divide synthetically. I don't know that it would be that much quicker, but what do we end up with on number 15 for our answer, Audrey?
X minus 9.
And x cannot equal?
Negative 13.
Good. X negative 9 is our answer, but x cannot equal a negative 13. Questions on number 15? I don't think that's Brandon. It sounds like a herd of students, a flock of students.
You'd be surprised.
Maybe it was Brandon. All right. His multiple personality. How many have the x negative 9 on number 15? All of them coming down the stairs at once. Questions on dividing. Questions on dividing functions. Going once on questions. Twice on questions. I don't think he's coming in the door. All right, page 191. Flip back to page 191. And there's a couple ways in which you can use this combination of functions to evaluate as well. So looking at the example problem at the bottom of page 191, they give you two functions. They give you an f function, f of x is x squared plus 2x minus 1. They give you a g function, 3x minus 1. And they said to find f minus g of x and then evaluate when x is 2. So pretty straightforward. If you'll follow along there in your books, we've got f of x minus g of x basically. So we take the x squared plus 2x minus 1 and we subtract or add the inverse of a 3x, so make it negative, and a negative 1, so make it positive. So we end up with an x squared, negative x, and then those cancel. And that's f minus g of x. This we've already done, correct? But then they want you to evaluate f minus g of 2. Well, that means plug in a 2 into this. And when you square the x, you get 4. And when you plug in minus a 2, you get 2. And that's f minus g of 2. That's one way to do it. Because they asked, find f minus g of x, and then evaluate. But what if they just said, find f minus g of 2? Well, in that case, what I could do is I could find f of 2. Well, looking at the original function in the bold there, f of x is x squared plus 2x minus 1. What is f of 2, anyone? 7. Minus g of 2. Looking at the bold function, 3x minus 1. What is g of 2? Anyone? 5. So what is 7 minus 5? 2. And we could do it without even evaluating the f minus g of x. We could just take f of 2 minus g of 2, and that would be f minus g of 2 as well. Depends on the way in which the directions ask you to solve. Questions on that? All right, so turn back to page 192 now. Notice here it does not say to find f plus g of x or f minus g of x or anything like that. They simply say evaluate when x is 2. So essentially then we're on page 192, Brandon. On page 192, number 17, you're going to find f of x plus g of x, but you're going to really find f of 5 plus g of 5. Does that make sense? Number 18, f of 5 minus g of 5. Number 19, f of 5 times g of 5. That's one specifically where it's much easier to evaluate them separately and then find the product. And then number 20, f of 5 divided by g of 5. We'll take a look at those in just a moment. Do number 17 through 20 on page 192. All right, Brandon, turn to page 190. I'm going to try to crash course catch you up, and if it doesn't take, then we'll have you watch the video later. Okay, so if it said f plus g of x, that means find f of x and add g of x to it. If it said f minus g of x, that means find f of x and subtract g of x, or add the inverse. If it says f g of x, that means take f of x and multiply by g of x. If it says f over g of x, it means find f of x and divide it by g of x. Remembering that the g of x can't be 0. Make sense?
Yeah.
So, they say, if f of x is that and g of x is that, find f plus g of x. So do that plus that. It's that. We're done. For f minus g of x, they do that minus or add the inverse that. They got that. We're done. F g of x, that times that. They triple distributed. Distribute the x squared, then the 3x, then the 2, add it all together, got that. F over g of x. They put that over that. Then they factored and canceled to get that. Where? Because you cancel the x plus 2x can't be negative 2. But we could also evaluate by just, for instance, if it says here, since it wants me to evaluate when x is 5, I don't actually have to add f of x plus g of x and then plug in 5. I could find f of 5, g of 5, and just add those answers. I can find f of 5, g of 5, and just subtract them. Which I've already found f of 5 and g of 5, so no subtracting, instead of adding. I could just multiply those values. I could just divide those values. Since he gave me the x value. That's where we are right now.
So you just plug in your x for these two.
Right, because you're just finding f of 5 plus g of 5. It says f of x plus g of x, but since they told us x is 5, it's f of 5 plus g of 5. Yep. Michael's finished. Must be nice to have a calculator, huh, Michael? Yeah. Yeah, for 25 cents, I could rent a calculator.
Actually, she didn't even give me my pencil back.
It's in my locker.
How did you put my pencil?
Because I forgot.
Work. Sibling squabbles. Very strange. Maddie's finished. Ms. Kim is finished. Audrey. Let's go and take a look at these together. Pencils down, even if you're not finished. It says to find f of x plus g of x. I'm not sure why they phrased it this way instead of simply saying find f plus g of x. But really, we're not even finding f plus g of x so much as class we're finding f plus g of 5. So what I would do is I would start by evaluating f of 5. And what do we get? That's a big number. What do we get for f of 5 class?
76.
76. And then we also need to evaluate g of 5. And what do we get for g of 5?
19.
19. Okay, so what is f plus g of 5? Well, that's going to be 76 plus 19, class. 95. We're done. Then it said to evaluate f minus g of 5. Well, 76 minus 19, 57, careful. And it said evaluate fg of 5. Well, this is where we want the calculator. And 76 times 19 gives us
1444.
1444. Big number. And then finally, f over g of 5 is 76 divided by 19. 4. There we go. It's easier when they want you to evaluate because you can get the values right up front and then just add, subtract, multiply, divide the numbers instead of adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing polynomials like we did on 1 through 15, the odd. That make sense? How do I get all of those correct? Ooh, okay, how many took the time to actually find f plus g of x, f minus g of x, actually evaluated with the polynomials? Anyone do that? If you did and misunderstood what I wanted you to do, 17 would have been 6x squared minus 7x minus 20. You could then plug 5 in, you'd still get 95. Number 18 would have been 6x squared minus 13x minus 28. Still would have gotten 57, you plug in the 5. Number 19 would have been 18x cubed plus 6x squared minus 112x minus 96. Bless your heart. Plug in the 5, you're still going to get 1,444. And for number 20, would have just simply gotten a 2x negative 6. And would have evaluated, still would have had 4 for your answer. Any questions 17 through 20?
I did that.
You did that. So you went ahead and evaluated with the polynomial first and then tried to plug the 5 in. And it's not wrong, but you see how much more efficient this is?
Yeah.
If you know what x value you're going to want anyway, figure out what the numbers are and then add, subtract, multiply by the numbers. Okay, questions on that? All right, you can set your books aside for a moment, and I'm going to give you 3 functions now. And let's write these down on your paper. Let's say that f of x is a 4x negative 5. Let's say that g of x is 3x positive 1. And let's say that h of x is x plus 2. Write all 3 of those functions on your paper, if you would, please. Now, what we've done so far is simply add, subtract, multiply, or divide, one at a time. But, there's no reason that we'd have to stop at that. For instance, if I asked you, what is f plus gh of x? What would I need to do to find this? Volunteer? Genesis?
Multiply GH and then add F.
Good. FOIL the g and the h, and then add the f function to whatever you got for the product. Add your seats, do that. And the point I guess I'm making through all of this is that function notation is very logical. What it looks like it's saying, it really is saying. Those campaign texts. Robert, this is sad. We still don't know if you've joined Trump's social media platform. No, what's sad is that you keep texting me about a social media platform. Oh my. All right, so when I FOIL GH of X, what do I get just for this part here? Brandon?
3x squared plus 7x plus 2.
Good, and then I'm going to add to that f of x, which was a 4x negative 5. So what do we end up getting for our answer here, Maddie? I'm sorry?
Plus 7.
I think you copied a +5 instead of a -5 for the F. So it should have had a -3 right there. How many had that answer for this one here? All right, questions on that? Write this one down. Now I want you to find FH minus G of X. FH minus G of X. Pretty much this is a fancy way of practicing section like 1.1 to 1.5 all over again. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing polynomials. We just call them functions now. We do the same thing. All right. For the FH, what do I get, Audrey?
4x squared, positive 3x, -10.
Good. And then we have to subtract the G class or add the inverse. So I'm going to write down a -3x and a -1. What do I get for my answer on FH minus G of X? Genesis?
4x squared. The 3's cancel.
We do.
-9.
Careful, if I took $10 from you, then I took $1 more. It's like, hey, where's that hiding? Give me that too. -11. That makes sense? How many have the 4x squared -11? All right, questions on that? What if, though, I said I want you to evaluate FG over H of 3? Am I going to FOIL and try to divide the x plus 2 by synthetic division and then plug in the 3 class? Not a chance. Could I? Yeah, I could. What am I going to do instead? Find f of 3, g of 3, and h of 3. Multiply the f of 3 and the g of 3, and then divide out the h of 3. At your seats, find fg over h of 3, given those 3 functions, f of x, g of x, and h of x. I much prefer functions with a number that I can evaluate rather than having to stick with the x's, because I am lazy and perhaps slightly sleepy. Kind of like Genesis. And Michael. All right, Ms. Kendall, what's f of 3?
7.
7. What is g of 3? Michael?
G of 3 is 10.
And what is h of 3? Abby?
5.
5. All right. So fg class would be
7.
over h. So 70 over 5 gives us 14. How many had 14? And that's way faster, isn't it, than foiling and then factoring out the other. You could get the same answer, right? But man, it's a lot faster to do it this way. Questions on that? All right, your homework for this evening is to do page 192, numbers 2 through 16, the even. Page 192, numbers 2 through 16, the even. We'll take a look at those in our next lesson. And then we'll move on to composition of functions, kind of the next level up. But I think you'll find it to still be relatively intuitive. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day, and when the bell rings, you'll be dismissed.